Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. 1 year I divorced 9 times, and each time I sought out the same lawyer. By the 10th time, lawyer Lin as in Ian directly confronted Kong about the divorce. I am your first wife, but not your personal divorce lawyer. Stop coming to me every time you get divorced. I raised an eyebrow, smiling slightly. Why are you treating a client this way? I could complain about you. Lin glared at me, her face devoid of emotion. We have many talented divorce lawyers in this office. You don't need to always seek me out. But I only trust you, I said, looking at her sincerely. Finally, she relented. ID cards, household registration books from both sides, children, assets, how to divide them. She calmly pulled up a chair and sat down. No children, no shared assets after marriage. I am at fault, leaving empty-handed. Lin typed, paused, and took a deep breath to suppress her anger. This is the 10th time, Kurt. What exactly are you trying to do? 10 divorces in 1 year, and each time you're at fault. Each time you wait out the 1-month reconciliation period. Do you take marriage as a joke? I looked at her sincerely and asked, am I breaking the law? No. Right then it's fine. Men and women falling in love, marrying or divorcing is my freedom. What does it have to do with you? Lin looked at me, her face momentarily stiffening. It's none of my business, but I was also one of your ex-wives. Do you think it's reasonable to always come to me? Why isn't it reasonable? Isn't this what you taught me? I tilted my head and smiled innocently. She ignored me, throwing the freshly printed divorce agreement at me. I hope this is the last time. Ideally, it should be, as you said. I took the agreement, stood up, and left. Outside the office, a young woman stood next to a sports car waiting. She was wearing tight-fitting sporty clothes, and her appearance was striking. That's my current wife, Jade, I thought. Second young lady of the Nam group, her personality is straightforward, fiery, and passionate. But she's about to become my ex-wife. Are you done? She asked. I waved the agreement in my hand. Okay, check if there are any issues. If not, let's end this marriage. She took the agreement, glanced through it, and laughed. Strange, I thought you'd find an excuse not to divorce, like those guys before who clung to me desperately wanting to marry me. I smiled professionally. Thank you, but please don't insult my professional ethics. This is what I'm supposed to do during the divorce mediation period. Contact me if you need anything. Jade curled her lip, seeming a little disappointed. Fine, thank you. This time, if it weren't for you, I'd be forced by those old men at home to go on blind dates and marry some rich young masters I don't like. I patted her head. Rest assured, I won't reveal the divorce, but how long you can keep it a secret depends on your efforts. That's right, I thought. I am a professional husband for hire. My clients are mostly from the upper class, single, hiding it or not wanting to remarry for various reasons. They need someone to marry temporarily. Riley, and that's when I appear playing the role of a perfect husband. First, we sign a prenuptial agreement, then complete the job, and then proceed with a divorce. They pay me a generous fee, purely transactional, without any extra emotion. I was about to say goodbye to my previous wife when I looked up and unexpectedly saw a luxury car parked by the roadside. A man in a black shirt and light gray trousers stepped out of the car. He looked at me and smiled faintly because we were dressed almost identically in high-end business casual style, very popular right now. The only difference was his clothes were genuine designer while mine were market knockoffs. He glanced at me, his smile tinged with mockery. I recognized him. Dean, the outstanding actor who had recently won a Golden Award in the entertainment industry. Soon after, a tall, elegantly dressed woman in a suit walked out of the office. It was Lin. Dean quickly approached and hugged Lin tightly. Baby, I've been waiting for you for so long. I texted you but you didn't reply, so I came straight here. Are you angry? Lin's cold face rarely showed a smile. Let go. I just finished work. What should we eat? Dean didn't say anything, just glanced at me and sneered. Your useless ex-husband is bothering you again. No wonder you didn't reply to my messages. His voice wasn't loud, but loud enough for all 4 of us to hear. I knew Dean. It wasn't surprising. We studied in the same art school. He became famous right after debut, quickly becoming an A-list star. Because I had a few features similar to him, when he became famous, I was considered a cheap imitation. Even my strange marriage to Lynn was thanks to him. He was Lynn's first male god, and I was just a poor version. Back then, Lynn loved him, causing a stir in the whole school. Later, when he debuted, fearing it would affect his career, he decisively broke up with her. To retaliate, Lynn chose me, his inferior version, to marry me and live together. But I was kept in the shadows for a long time until those two started getting involved again. Not only did they cheat in marriage, but they also brought someone else home to provoke me. In the end, Lynn generously gave me half of the assets and kicked me, this cheap imitation, to throw herself into the arms of a high-class man. This action truly broadened my horizons. I thought if being a husband for hire could earn money like this, then instead of just doing it for one person, I'd do it for 10. Surely it would be better than being a stunt actor. At that moment, Dean glanced at me again, then looked at Jade next to me and coldly said, "Coming to do divorce procedures again? You really are useless. You'll stick your eyes on any woman on the street. Used to be a stand-in for me. Now you found a new way to hustle." I snapped my fingers, thick-skinned, and said, "Indeed, I can't compare to you. My market isn't as big as yours. My ex-wife was just an ordinary rich lady." Finishing speaking, I glanced at the onlookers. Jade, the person called an ordinary rich lady, was stunned for a moment. Then she took off her baseball cap, revealing a radiant face. She hooked her arm through mine, saying, "That's right, I'm just an ordinary person with assets not worthy of being on stage, huh? Speaking of which, the $5 billion you divided with me after the divorce, where are you planning to spend it?" I couldn't help but give Jade a thumbs up. Her words were too lethal. Dean, although a big star, had only become famous in the last 2 or 3 years. His family was ordinary. He completely relied on himself to change his fate. Recently, he even declared to the media, "I don't rely on family power because I am family power." But whether his family power could reach the level of billion-dollar assets, I wasn't sure. I knew Jade was taking my side, so I continued to act. First, I'll buy a yacht. Then I'll buy a private farm. Next, I'll buy back an entertainment company and be the boss. I'll hire a hot star to be my stand-in. Jade nodded in agreement. Good idea. Still know how to develop your career, not lazy. Looks like my teachings have had some effect on you as expected. The smile on Dean's face slowly disappeared. He looked at Jade as if he had recognized her rich lady identity. He chuckled twice, then tried to maintain his actor image. This girl probably doesn't know what kind of person Kurt is. Money is more important to him than feelings. You should be careful. Don't get deceived. Then he stylishly smoothed his hair and hugged Lynn. The restaurant I booked, it's almost time. Lynn let her go. Don't let irrelevant people ruin our mood. Before leaving, he even asked for Jade's phone number. Wasn't he green-hatting Lynn? Everyone sneered. Jade shook her head. Don't be like that big star. I'm a married woman still in the divorce cooling-off period. I can't betray my husband. Dean stomped off in anger, and Lynn wasn't happy either. I turned back to look at Jade and asked, "The $5 billion promised by my ex-wife, is it still valid?" She laughed and joked. "Who has $5 billion? Let's say $200 million service fee. Can you pay in installments?" Meeting someone even better at acting than me, I said, "No installments. Must pay in full, not a penny less. Otherwise, I'll go to your house and cry, make a scene, and act shamelessly." Unexpectedly, she was even thicker-skinned. "How about we make it real? My money will all be yours. Do you want to consider it?" I immediately pushed her away. "Then you have to add more money. I am a professional. Can't sell myself cheap." After parting with Jade, I immediately went to the bank. Not long after, she transferred $200 million service fee into my account. I took a deep breath and checked the balance on the card. Good, almost reaching my first small goal. Very quickly after, I received a call. "Hello, Kurt. Saturday evening at 8 p.m. There's a family gathering that needs you to appear. The service fee will be transferred as usual to your account." The caller was my ex-wife, number 9, a top surgeon. She was mature and gentle, but because of her busy work, she didn't have time for romance. To avoid pressure from her family, she sought me out to play the husband. We had divorced last month, but within 6 months after the divorce, I still had to be ready to play the husband according to the contract. Work was still very busy. I put aside everything related to Lynn and Dean. Women only delay my money-making. Not wrong, I just want to focus on making money. Snow wore a comfortable white coat, a well-proportioned figure, and a beautiful face with a hint of coldness. She stepped closer, and I smelled a faint scent of disinfectant. I looked at my own outfit, also white. For someone with cleanliness OCD, besides white, all other colors are dirty. She looked at me and smiled faintly, then gracefully extended her hand. I looked at the pristine white gloves on her hands, laughed awkwardly twice, then put on the gloves I had prepared. Her frown immediately eased. Snow took my arm, and we walked together into a European-style villa in a luxury area. It was called a family gathering, but inside, at least 30 or 40 people were already seated. This made me quite awkward. Arriving late is always the focus of scrutiny. I had just sat down when a lady sitting next to her spoke up. "Snow, your husband is really hard to meet. He usually doesn't participate in our gatherings. I heard he's unemployed all day and just stays at home." "What does he do at home?" "Counts money," I replied. "My time is precious, down to the second." She frowned slightly, looking at that lady while I maintained a calm expression. "Her work is very busy. She often works late into the night. As her husband, of course, I have to take care of the family at the same time to allow her to have broader thinking and knowledge. Not working is also to better take care of her." The meaning was very clear. Other people's family affairs are best not to interfere. After I finished speaking, the lady was speechless and had to shut up. I took her hand and asked, "Am I right, honey?" She rarely showed a smile. "You're right," she said. Everything seemed to be going smoothly when suddenly a sarcastic voice rang out. "Isn't this the full-time stay-at-home husband? Mr. Kurt doesn't have any other source of income, or is just relying on his wife to live." I looked up. It turned out it was Lynn. Beside her was Dean, one dressed in a suit and the other in a gorgeous evening gown. Lynn looked at me with an even colder gaze than before. I didn't expect Lynn to appear at her family party. This wasn't on the guest list she had prepared. She explained that Lynn was a lawyer her mother's company hired at a high price and seemed to be very favored by her mother, so she was invited. This was the first time in my life I encountered such an awkward situation, two ex-wives appearing at the same party. But I didn't panic at all. I maintained a smile and moved closer. To her wife, "Am I too useless? Can't earn money to support you? So others say such things." She calmly replied, "You are a worthy homeowner. Of course you have your own income, but your assets are just small and insignificant, not worth everyone's attention." Lynn laughed coldly, sat down, but didn't intend to stop. "Income from what? Maybe I can help analyze it further." She emphasized the word income, as if afraid people wouldn't know. We used to know each other. Even Snow noticed the abnormality, grasped my hand, her eyes full of worry. "Of course we know each other. She's my ex-wife number one, also the person who led me on to this path. But she's also a talented lawyer. Must have professional ethics. Why is she getting involved in investments?" I looked at her, wondering what exactly was she trying to do. Lynn's eyes flashed with jealousy, but she didn't say anything more. However, the person sitting next to her, Dean, couldn't restrain himself. Even though he was a big star in this party full of rich ladies, his halo was completely dimmed. He needed to find a way to attract attention. He looked at me, then looked at her, fighting surprise. "Wait a minute, Kurt. I remember seeing you at Lynn's law office a few days ago, signing a divorce agreement. How come today you've become her husband?" "Lynn, lately I've been filming. Am I mistaken? Or did I see wrong?" One sentence stirred up waves. Everyone's eyes turned towards me. Even Snow subtly stiffened, her beautiful eyebrows furrowing slightly. I immediately stood up, looked straight at Dean and said word by word clearly, "Mr. Dean, what do you mean by that? You are a star. You should consider the impact of your words. She and I have been married for over a year. We don't usually appear publicly, but we also don't allow others to interfere in our marriage." Dean stared at me for a while, then sneered. "Marriage? It's not just the marriage that's fluctuating. You even change wives." This person clearly wanted to make trouble, determined to play dirty with me. Right then, Snow's parents also began to realize something was wrong. These words were indeed true. Dean triumphantly raised his chin, pretending to be righteous. Ladies and gentlemen of the Snow family, everyone please don't be too angry. I know Kurt. He was my university classmate. Maybe everyone doesn't know his glorious achievements. Back in school, he was pursued by black market loan sharks right to the school. His own mother jumped from our school's rooftop. Everyone, tell me, can such a family raise good people? Later, seeing him pitiful, I gave him a job as my stunt actor. As a result, everyone guess what? He seduced someone else's son-in-law to deceive and even wanted to use his body to exchange for roles. Kurt, do I need to continue? Stop deceiving everyone. Dean was watching the drama unfold, his face full of smugness. Immediately, all eyes like sharp arrows were pointed at me. Just like many years ago, I smiled faintly, tightened my grip on the wine glass in my hand. At this moment, the one who had been silent all along. Suddenly, Snow placed her hand on the back of my hand, gently pulled me into her embrace, calmly looked at everyone and said, "Sorry everyone. Recently there have been some arguments between me and my husband, but I never thought about divorce. Unexpectedly, it was exploited by others to cause discord. Knowing this, I shouldn't have brought him to the family party, causing him to be smeared and wronged." Finishing her speech, she turned to look at me with a serious gaze. "Honey, I made you suffer." I was moved to almost tears and immediately hugged her tightly, pretending to shed a few crocodile tears. Actually, I was happy. I gently patted her back. Where could I find such a good boss? Because of my mistake, I almost exposed her secret. She, someone who always feared trouble, even came forward to help me out. I decided to give her a 30% discount. Lynn, next to her, also stood up, pulling Dean's arm, stopping what he was about to say next. "Dean, you've gone too far. Sorry everyone, my boyfriend has probably been filming too much lately and can't distinguish between reality and acting. I've never seen Kurt at my law office. The reason we know each other is just because we chatted a few times at a cocktail party." Dean looked at Lynn in shock. I also didn't expect Lynn to be unexpectedly kind, not exposing me. The family party, of course, ended unhappily. Snow led me away. Unexpectedly, just as we reached the garden, we encountered Lynn, using the excuse of taking Dean home. She had been waiting there for who knows how long. The two women stared at each other, their eyes full of the smell of gunpowder. Snow tightened her arm around mine, almost glued to my side. "The evening is cold, don't catch a cold," she said, then looked up at Lynn. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Lynn's gaze always stayed on Snow. Firmly opening her mouth, she said, "I want to talk to Kurt." Snow gently curled her lips in irony. "Perhaps it's not convenient. Your boyfriend has hurt my husband. Right now he needs to rest." She paused, then continued, "I'm very sorry." Then she changed her tone, directly questioning Lynn. "May I ask if Kurt himself is willing to talk to you?" Rejecting her apology, I wanted to say no, but this matter really had to find Lynn. She had previously helped me handle many divorce agreements. Of course, she understood each of my ex-wives well. Today, she attended Snow's family party. I wasn't sure if it was for friendship or with other intentions. I comforted Snow and looked at her. "Honey, go wait for me in the car. Give me 5 minutes." Snow was understanding. Although I felt she was angry, she tightened her hand for a moment, then released it, adjusted my slightly messy clothes, leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Don't worry, I'm right next door. Call me if anything happens." Speaking, she even kissed the corner of my lips, carrying a bit of possessiveness. Her breath was so close it made me a little itchy. I looked at her in surprise. This was the first time Snow had proactively gotten so close to me. Before leaving, Snow also coldly glared at Lynn. She left. Lynn stepped closer to me. "Kurt, you still refuse to say what exactly you are doing. 3 days ago, you just filed for divorce from that rich lady. Now you're attending a family party with ex-wife number 9. What exactly are you playing at?" Hearing these words, I looked up at her and smiled faintly. "Playing at? Lawyer Lynn, as a lawyer, you should be responsible for your words. I haven't broken the law nor harmed the interests of others. I just attended a family party in place of my ex-wife. How can it be playing at?" Lynn grabbed my arm tightly, her body leaning close. She looked at me through her glasses, her eyes dreamy but full of understanding. After a long while, she seemed to see through me. "Dean said that thing about you seducing film producers is true.
I smiled faintly here.
If you already think it's true, then whatever I say is useless, right? If you only came to ask about this worthless matter, then I won't waste any more time. I turned to leave, but Lynn stopped me. Her eyes were tearing. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Intentionally doing this to make me jealous, right? Kurt, you know I only love Dean. You doing these things for me is really not worth it. I was silent. I admitted that my often seeking Lynn to do divorce papers was carrying a sense of revenge, but I also understood her well. She wouldn't easily reveal client information, even to her closest people. Otherwise, Dean would have known about my many ex-wives long ago. I really didn't have any feelings for her. Even if there were, it was just disappointment when she cheated during our marriage without any remorse. She even threw the divorce papers directly in my face, saying she wanted to break up, that I was just a substitute for Dean. At that time, I was really disappointed. I once thought she was the savior of my life, but it turned out she only hurt me again and again. Right, I am just Dean's substitute, I said. Dean wasn't wrong. At the family party, my family was heavily in debt due to high loans. I originally came from a wealthy family. My father was a well-known real estate businessman considered rich. But in my third year of university, my father's company was investigated for product quality issues. Overnight, negative public opinion overwhelmed everything. Investors continuously withdrew capital to maintain operations. My father had to borrow a huge sum of money from black market lenders. Even so, the company still went bankrupt. Creditors came to the house to demand money and robbed all valuables. My father, due to arguing, had a stroke and passed away on the spot. My mother, to survive, had to agree to remarry a 70-year-old man. She wanted to escape the debt crisis, but I couldn't agree. I even said words that hurt my mother. She became desperate and came to school. She jumped down from the teaching building, her body mangled before my eyes. It was at that moment I realized all my dreams were nothing. My family was gone. I lived vaguely but still had to pay debts. I wanted to be famous, wanted to act to earn money. Key to pay off debts, but luck didn't come to me. In my despair, Lynn appeared like a light. She gave me a large sum of money in exchange for marrying her. I was wholeheartedly devoted to her, and regarded her as my savior. But what was the result? I looked at Lynn, smiled and said, I just take everything you do as being for my sake, but I still hope you keep it a secret for me. I need money, a lot of money. The money I owed you before, consider it fully repaid. From now on, I won't bother you anymore. I left the garden where Snow was waiting for me in the car. She saw me gloomy but didn't ask anything, just offered to drive. She asked, Are you okay? I replied, Sorry for ruining your family party today. It's my fault. She smiled faintly, slightly curled her lips, and gently helped me buckle my seatbelt. She reassured me, Don't worry, one ex-wife is nothing. Today it was my fault for letting you face those rumors. I have to make it up to you. I laughed. I like rich people like you, just using money to soothe wounds. Truly a good quality. She sighed, then seriously said, Your parents. I interrupted her. They passed away a long time ago. Not important. Next time, I'll try to create a more perfect family. No more mistakes. Snow suddenly braked, took off her white gloves, turned her head to look at me with sincere eyes and said, You know I didn't mean that. I want to understand you more. Can you give me a chance? I was stunned for a moment, then replied, Okay. Then I'll send all my information to you again. She frowned, seeming unhappy. I don't want to investigate you and that kiss. You know I was just acting so Lynn wouldn't bother you. I interrupted her. Rest assured, I won't delude myself into thinking you like me. The atmosphere became suffocating. I intended to open the car door but found it wouldn't open. I turned to look at her and saw her face was flushed red. She came closer, her red lips only a little distance from me, but stopped midway. She softly said, That kiss was real, not acting. I stared at her in astonishment. The feeling between us became ambiguous. She lightly bit her lip and asked, Kurt, are you a man or not? I was about to answer, but the car had arrived at the apartment complex. I got out of the car, smiled and thanked her. Thank you, ex-wife number 9. She continued to ask, Before me there were 8 others? I joked. The first principle in this industry is not to have feelings for clients. Feelings will affect the speed of making money. The family party incident was just a small episode but also a warning bell for me. I had to resolve my relationships with my ex-wives immediately. I terminated contracts with ex-wives number 1 to 8. Although I no longer had additional income, I had earned enough. I just needed to settle with wives number 9 and 10, and my family's debts would be paid off. Honestly, I couldn't understand those ex-wives. Beautiful, rich, but didn't like finding boyfriends. They even hired people to play husband. Truly, rich people like to play bizarre games, but I also appreciated these rich old. For women, as long as it didn't cross the line or break the law, I would do anything for money until I received an invitation from ex-wife number 8. She invited me to dinner and said she was very particular about etiquette. Even when terminating the contract, there must be a farewell party. I had no doubts. Ex-wife number 8 was a minor actress among all my fake ex-wives. She was the least prominent, but she was skilled at talking, easy to listen to, and possessed a lovely doll-like face. The reason she fake married me was also very bizarre. She secretly loved a man, a male god, who already had a partner. This girl was unwilling to accept it and wanted to use a marriage certificate to provoke the male god. So she went through connections to find me and fake married me. Usually, she rarely contacted me. Our marital relationship lasted less than a week, and then quickly ended in divorce. Initially, I hesitated whether to cut off contact or not until she offered 1 million yen as parting money. God, eating a meal and earning 1 million? Not earning would be stupid. I happily dressed up nicely to attend just to make a good impression. As a result, she said she was a star, afraid of paparazzi discovering her. So she told me to go straight to her house and even sent the address. I had no doubts. The less famous the star, the more they overdo it. I wore a baseball cap and a mask, disguised as a delivery man, to enter her house. I just knocked on the door and ex-wife number 8 pulled me inside. Inside, the lights weren't turned on. She even prepared dinner by candlelight, along with steak and red wine. She was full of perfume and threw herself into my arms. I frowned, avoided her hand, and said, "Thank you for preparing, but I don't like steak. Sorry, I'm allergic to romance." Ex-wife number 8 was stunned, but quickly her lovely face showed a smile. She leaned closer and pressed her cheek against my arm. "Honey, today I'm not happy. Drink a few glasses with me. Drinking is fine, but if anything happens after getting drunk, you take responsibility yourself." I smiled playfully, pushed her away, changed shoes, and sat at the dining table. She propped her chin, looking at me. "Honey, you're too busy. I've asked you out several times, but you didn't come out. Do you have other clients besides me?"
Client?
Yes, but even if I had 3 heads and 6 arms, I couldn't handle it all just to earn a living. Ex-wife number 8 poured me a glass of red wine. Actually, I'm also a pitiful person, hustling in the entertainment industry for so long, but with no hope of becoming famous. So tell me if I can hear some gossip. I drank a glass of wine in one gulp and immediately felt this wine was a bit strong. Ex-wife number 8 came closer again, showing off her sexiness. "Honey, will you teach me how to become famous?" I mumbled all sorts of things to her and was poured more than a few glasses of wine until she suddenly asked me, "Honey, how many ex-wives do you actually have? So you say if I also gather a few husbands, will I also become famous?" As soon as the words left my mouth, my mind immediately sobered up. Something's not right. Why did I feel like ex-wife number 8 was trying to dig up my secrets? I staggered to stand up, intending to leave, but she unexpectedly hugged me from behind. "Oh, 10 people, honey, you're really amazing." After saying this, I felt my whole body float and then fell to the ground. She also wasn't polite. She quickly took off my clothes and hugged me, pretending like I had bullied her. "Honey, tell me, if I sue you for rape now, how long will you go to jail?" At that moment, my mind felt like it was about to explode. In a daze, I saw a man walk out of the bedroom holding a phone in his hand. He seemed to be recording a video. "God, Kurt, you're really good at playing 10 ex-wives and you can handle them." "It's Dean. He set a trap for me." I lay on the ground, struggling to look up at him. Then at ex-wife number 8 next to me. She pretended to be innocent. "Sorry, Dean asked me to help him ask you out. How could I refuse?" God, ex-wife number 8 turned out to be Dean's crazy fan. Narrow road meets enemy. Truly not wrong. I need to call all of them over. Dean probably also understood that with just this bit of evidence, even if reported to the police, they could only detain me for a few days. At that time, I could also drag him down with me, so he decided to call everyone over. I want to let everyone see clearly the true face of this man. Dean was smug while I chose to close my eyes, lie still, ignore the situation, and wait to see how things would unfold. I waited for about half an hour until the alcohol was almost worn off when continuous knocking on the door rang out. Dean had prepared a story to frame me, but as soon as he opened the door, 3 women appeared outside. Jade, Snow, and even Lynn. Jade, without saying a word, pushed Dean hard aside, stepped into the room and shouted loudly, "Where's my husband? If my husband loses a strand of hair, I'll buy your company and make sure you can never film again." Snow wore a white outfit and white gloves. She took off her gloves, coldly looked at Dean and ex-wife number 8. "Heard my husband is here. I came to take him home." Lynn looked at the 2 others without saying a word until they showed dissatisfaction. She then spoke up. "She is also Kurt's ex-wife, why not say anything?" Lynn glanced at me, then straightened her hair indifferently said, "If you need legal support, find me." Dean was stunned. Everything was not as he imagined. His face gradually distorted as he angrily repeated, "You guys are crazy. Or did I not say it clearly? Kurt behind you still has connections with many other women. Aren't you angry?" Snow, hearing this, her eyes were cold, said, "Mr. Dean, I don't understand why you keep smearing my husband. In my eyes, he is the best husband, the perfect man. I hope you'll be less malicious. I don't want this to happen again. Otherwise, I will resort to law." Hearing this, Jade also became unhappy. "Big sister, I have to remind you, Miss Kurt is my husband now. You at most are just an ex-wife. Let my husband go. As for this woman slandering my husband, I will let my family lawyer handle it." Lynn coldly replied, "I am the lawyer here." Dean was dumbfounded. Everything was not as he imagined. His face gradually distorted as he angrily repeated, "You guys are all crazy. This man is a rapist. Shameless." As soon as he finished speaking, Lynn immediately slapped Dean directly across the face, causing him to stagger. She frowned and scolded Dean. "The matter between me and Kurt ended long ago. Don't cause trouble for him anymore. Doing so really devalues you. You are a star. You should focus on acting, on how to play a role well, not be like a woman fighting out of jealousy." Well said. For the first time, I heard Lynn speak up for me. I reluctantly stood firm and looked towards Dean. "I don't understand why you have such great malice towards me, but I still want to say to you, back then Lynn and I fell in love normally. I didn't interfere in your affairs at all. It was you guys who dragged me into this matter. Handle your affairs yourself, and don't interfere in the matter between me and my ex-wives anymore." I staggered to stand up, preparing to walk away handsomely. Jade and Snow didn't say anything. Each one supported me on one side as we went out. Before leaving, Jade looked at ex-wife number 8 and said, "You're really shameless. We women chasing after this man in the end will get nothing." Ex-wife number 8 was ashamed to the point of almost tears. "Don't look at me being so imposing," she said, and then went downstairs and vomited non-stop. Snow thoughtfully patted my back. Jade looked at Snow, then at me. "Kurt, brother, is this your previous client? You choose people well, huh? Ex-wives are all beauties, enough to fill several tables of Maung. And what about that lawyer? What's the deal?" After vomiting, I felt much better.
I glänzte her.
"That's my ex-wife number 1, not a client." Jade retracted her sweet smile. Her gaze at me was a little different. I waved my hand. "Thank you both for today. It's my fault that unexpectedly ex-wife number 8 would become Dean's stalker because of me." I was just about to say goodbye to the 2 when both of them opened the car door and, looking at me, said in unison, "I'll take you home." The 2 looked at each other. The atmosphere was tense, as if about to explode. What's going on? Fake ex-wife turned real? This joke is not funny. I am someone who focuses on my career. How about all 3 of us go in one car? Snow didn't say anything. Her lips pressed tightly into a straight line, seeming angry. She coldly glanced at Jade. "I don't like sharing a car with strangers," Jade exaggeratedly said. "I'm a stranger?" I thought for a moment. Snow was a bit of a clean freak while Jade's personality was relaxed and indeed a bit noisy. So I said, "How about Snow takes me home?" Snow's cold face immediately softened as she gently supported me. "Okay then," she said, finishing her sentence as she helped me into the car, leaving Jade alone standing by the roadside, angrily stomping her foot. This kind of joke is not funny. Kurt brother, I'm still in my quiet period. I realized recently, things were a bit strange. Although I regarded my ex-wives as clients, they didn't seem to think so. Since knowing about each other's existence, Jade and Snow came to find me much more often. Jade was fine after all. She was a rich young lady who liked to joke around. She probably found it interesting, so she joined in for fun. I didn't have anything to do with her. She just regarded me as a friend. But Snow was different. My marriage with her was the longest. Usually she spoke little. Each time we dated, she was very gentle and thoughtful. She was a doctor. Any strange illnesses I had, she understood. She was also the one I had the most feelings for among all my ex-wives, but I knew between us it was impossible. We were just in a transactional relationship. I was completely unworthy of her after everything. That night ended, Dean also calmed down completely. I intended to completely withdraw, calculated the balance in my bank account, prepared to move to another city, and say goodbye to all these troubles. As a result, Lynn every few days would buy a pile of things to bring over. I didn't understand her intention. She coldly explained it was compensation for mental damage. Understand it how you want. Can it be converted to money? You really are money obsessed, just like Dean said, huh? You married those rich ladies just for money, became other people's toys. That's right, that's how it is. I smiled faintly, looked at her. Lynn glared at me angrily and left. I blocked all of her WeChat accounts. 1 month later, just after the cooling-off period ended, Jade and I went to get divorce papers. She still refused to give up. Her eyes red, she asked me, "I have money. I realize I really like you. You really won't reconsider it a bit? Can we remarry right now, turn fake into real?" I smiled and shook my head. "Sorry, I've earned enough money." Looking at the disappointment on her face, I couldn't help but say, "Think carefully. You don't really like me. You just knew I had many excellent ex-wives. Seeing others pursuing me, you felt interested. You're just curious and have a bit of a desire to conquer. You have feelings but not much. Not to mention, you're not the person I want." Jade looked at me, smiled bitterly. "In your eyes, I am just that kind of ordinary woman." After settling with Jade, I truly had peace for a while. But not long after, short videos began to circulate online in which someone secretly filmed the dramatic scene at ex-wife number 8's house. That day, 3 women were jealous and fighting. It immediately became a hot topic. I became famous, the negative kind of fame. Everyone called me a time management master. Even someone found my social media account and asked me how I could conquer so many excellent ex-wives at the same time. They asked me to release a guide. Are you kidding me? How could I release a guide? I had already washed my hands and retired. I'm not doing it anymore. People who wanted a guide existed, but those who hated me were also not few. Some people even exposed my assets, according to some who liked to investigate. They found out I divorced 10 times in just 1 short year. They even found out about my father's company going bankrupt back then, and my mother jumping off a building. Immediately, I was pushed to the forefront of public opinion. People scolding me were countless, especially men. They said I was playing with girls' feelings. Most were excessive accusations about me playing with feelings. My relationships with people were all clean, at most just holding hands. I hadn't even kissed anyone. I didn't pay attention to this matter. On the contrary, Snow was the first to call and asked if I needed help. I said, "No need, don't pay attention to me anymore. I'll handle it myself. Everything will be all right." She was silent for a moment. On the other end of the line, a gentle voice rang out, "Anyway, take care." Suddenly, I felt my heart flutter. The video was definitely released by Dean. I originally intended to investigate, but thinking about it, I felt no need. I hadn't done anything illegal, at most just not ethical. As a result, that evening Dean called me. That video wasn't uploaded by me. It was ex-wife number 8 of your actor. I've banned her from the industry already. Just telling you, don't put everything on my head. And about the things before too, I apologize. I was surprised Dean changed. But before hanging up, he suddenly gritted his teeth. You just keep liking Lynn. She can't forget you. I once thought you were just a substitute, but now I understand I still don't know her well enough. I lost to you. After hanging up, I was lost in thought. Can't forget me? Really? Ridiculous. I used the large sum of money earned this year, transferred it into the creditor account, and cleared all debts. I breathed a sigh of relief as if the future finally belonged to me. I could do what I wanted. I booked a ticket to Tibet for the next day. That night, when I went to throw out the trash, I saw Lynn. Her business suit was somewhat disheveled, her white shirt exposed, highlighting her alluring figure. Seeing me, her eyes were red. She rushed closer. I was wrong. I apologize. Can you forgive me? I calmly looked at her, carefully observed every feature on her face, and smiled politely. Sorry, you are just a substitute. She looked at me hopefully. I calmly brushed her hand away. This sentence I return to you, ex-wife number 1. Our relationship ended long ago. Nothing more to say about forgiveness or not. I thank you for your concern before, but we are already in the past. I now have my own new life. Lynn immediately became angry. She hugged me a bit crazily. You're lying to me. I know you still haven't forgotten me. I said nothing. She moved closer, intending to kiss me. Right after, her hair was pulled back hard by someone. I looked up. It was Snow with a cold face. Her expression was very serious. Lawyer Lynn, as a lawyer, you should have some professional ethics. Kurt doesn't like you. No matter how hard you try, it's useless. Lowering yourself will only make you lose more value. At her grip on Lynn's wrist. Lynn was in pain and had to let go of me. I was surprised. Snow, why are you here? Snow smiled faintly and took out a wet disinfecting wipe. She wiped the area of my face where Lynn had touched. Indifferently, she said, Why you can come find Kurt and I can't? Lynn laughed coldly, fake. I know everything already. You guys are just acting, right? The money you gave Kurt, I can pay triple immediately right after. Snow slapped Lynn directly across the face. Lynn widened her eyes in disbelief. You dare to hit me? Am I wrong? Snow curled her lips in irony under the yellow street lights. Her perfect face was clearly revealed. She coldly said, No wonder Kurt hates you so much. Because you are truly hateful. With your first love, you couldn't maintain your true self with Kurt. You didn't fulfill the responsibility of a wife. You even thought money could buy his heart. I hate you because you once had his heart, but didn't know how to cherish it. Now you come back saying you regret it. Lynn, do you think you deserve it? Lynn stared blankly at her, then looked at me. I didn't show any emotion, my hands tightening again. At this moment I took a deep breath, took a step forward, reached out and grasped Snow's hand. I looked up at her and said softly, You're right, honey. Lynn, you always think you're right. Always think everyone must love you. Once someone doesn't love you anymore, you feel uncomfortable and want to win them back. But life is not always as you wish, Lynn. Don't bother me anymore. Lynn said nothing. Her expression looked extremely lost and desperate. I sighed, shook my head, then looked toward Snow next to me, showing a faint smile. I said, Upstairs, help me pack my luggage. Snow grasped my hand and leaned her head against my chest. Okay then, but next time throwing out trash, I have to go with you. Meeting this kind of shameless woman, you also can't handle it. I chuckled twice. Love between men and women, marriage or divorce, is my freedom. Without looking again at the stunned Lynn, Snow turned around and pulled me upstairs. Her hand was very warm, making me a little moved. I tightened her hand even more. 1,000 lights are not as good as the warmth of one person beside you. Walking in the darkness, she softly asked, So will you remarry me? Aren't you afraid I'm a kept man? She stopped, took a deep breath, then continued, When will you tell me about your previous 6? When you feel in a good mood, I'll tell you. She looked at me, her voice gentle. Now I feel in a very good mood. I looked at her in surprise, my gaze locked onto her eyes as bright as stars. She continued, Take me home. Your previous wives, all of them, throw them away.